So tonight we're going to be looking at the Bhagavatam section, and then on Sunday, April 21st, we're going to be looking at the Bhagavad Gita section, and then we'll also have a video for you. So that will be very exciting. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivasesa Sannivani Paskachade Satarne. So the whole purpose of any form of spirituality is to realize spirituality, is to change one's consciousness, is to change one's awareness. That instead of seeing this is a world for me to exploit and try to enjoy in my own selfish way, we see everything as divine. Every part of our lives, everything with whom we interact, everything we see spiritually. So one famous Vedic aphorism is Sarva Kalamidam Brahma. Everything is actually spiritual, or Vasudevam Sarvamiti. The Lord is actually everywhere and in everything, and everything is in Him. Now, generally, when we talk about seeing things spiritually, people think, well, that means that I have to separate myself from the world, not have anything to do with the world, go into a cave in the Himalayas or go to Vrindavan or something like that, and just engage in chanting and in worship. And in fact, Arjuna had this idea in the Bhagavad Gita, didn't he? Right? He said, I don't want to do anything in the world. Let me just leave everything. And then Krishna says, finally, he says, all right, fine. If you want to do that, you can go to a secluded place and stare at your nose and just say Om and eat roots and berries. And and then Arjuna said, well, that's not really practical. And then Krishna ends that chapter with what verse? Yoginam api sarvesham madgaten antaratmana Shadavam bhajate yomam samayuktatamo mataha. The real yogi is one who always thinks of me. And then again, you might think that Krishna would start talking about his pastimes in Vrindavan, but he doesn't. He goes in the 7th chapter and says things like, I'm the light of the sun, I'm the taste of water. And there was in Tokyo, one guest asked Srila Prabhupada, how can I see God? And Prabhupada said, you have to see him how he's recommending. Yes, the light of the sun, the taste of water, and so forth. So there's instructions like this in the Bhagavatam as well. How to take what we're already thinking about, what we're already seeing, what we're already hearing, what we're already tasting, what we're already smelling, what we're already touching, and have that be an impetus to find Krishna. That is the idea. When Krishna says to Arjuna, yam yam vapi sram bhavam twajachante kalevaram tam tam evaiti konteya sadatad bhava bhavita, you become whatever you think about. Right after that, he says, mam anusmaram yujacha. Think of me while you're fighting. Think of me while you're doing, because he was a soldier. If Krishna was talking to a software engineer, he'd say, think of me while you're coding. So how to do that? Prabhupada writes in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, text 2, that while we're going to the market, we're in samadhi. What did he mean by that? He couldn't have meant this kind of samadhi, because how are you going to drive your car to the market? We have all these stories of great yogis in samadhi, they couldn't even hear anything. Right? Shamakarishi couldn't hear when Emperor Parikshit came into his home because he was in a yogic samadhi. So what kind of samadhi? A samadhi where we see Krishna everywhere. Premanjana charita bhakti vilojanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundara achincha gunaswarukam. So how are we going to do this? So let's look at this verse from Queen Kunti, where she's looking at Krishna face to face, like probably as far away as you are, looking at Krishna, and she says to him, O personality of the form of the universe. So we're going to go through the sections from the 2nd and the 8th canto. There are also other sections in the 12th canto that we did not include. And as we're doing this, you might want to take some notes if you have paper or a phone. And at the end, I'm going to ask each of you to let me know at least one of these items, one of these specific items that you're going to be meditating on over the next week. All right? Okay? And any of you who do want to go more deeply, we do have some books here. All right. So, the mouth of the Lord generates the voice and is filled with fire. His mouth is the blazing fire. Actually, in the 9th canto, it said that Sudarshan is the master of speech. So if we think of speech like fire, right? Speech illuminates, it cuts through what's wrong, it burns up ignorance. And whenever we or anyone else are speaking like that, that is the manifestation of the fire of the Lord's voice. His skin generates the Vedic hymns. Whenever we are chanting Hare Krishna or any Vedic hymns, we are touching the skin of the Lord. And the Vedic hymns are his cerebral passage. The scriptures, the holy books, the Vedas, they're the brains of a religious community. Right? Without it, we wouldn't have the flow of awareness through the cerebral passage of our community, which allows it to function. And all the Vedas are his speaking. Now we know that directly in the Bhagavad Gita, but it's true in general of any of the Vedas. Whenever we're picking up the scripture and reading it, we're hearing the voice of the Lord. From his tongue comes all of our food. From his tongue comes all of our food, and he wants us to share food. Krishna's really into sharing. He doesn't want us just to cook for ourselves. Yes? He wants us to distribute food. And from his tongue comes all the rasas. Anything that we are enjoying, any kind of taste, any kind of pleasure that we feel in this world, it's coming from the Lord's tongue. There's such a nice commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on the 3rd verse of the Chatur Shloki of the Bhagavatam, which are the 4 key verses of the Bhagavatam, that says that the Lord likes to give his form to the devotees for their enjoyment. And he repeats the same theme in Madhurya Kadambini, the 8th shower of nectar, how the Lord shows his beauty to the devotee, and the devotee, all of his senses become like eyes, and the Lord shows his smell to the devotee, and all of the senses of the devotee become like a nose, and the Lord speaks, and all the senses of the devotee become like ears. The Lord wants us to take pleasure in interacting with his form, and all of our pleasures are coming from his tongue. On his lips is greed. So our lips are often greedy to talk too much, to eat too much. What's Krishna greedy for? Butter. Okay, good. What else? The love of the devotees. And is he greedy for that? What does he say as Giriraj? Aniyor, give me more, give me more. His smelling powers create all the medicinal herbs. When you're cooking and you throw that oregano in the pot, right? Thyme, cardamom, that came from the Lord's smelling. His breathing, his smelling is creating all those herbs. And his smelling, his breathing is creating the wind. The wind is blowing different kinds of weather and different changes in our life. And whenever the weather changes with the wind, that is the breathing of the Lord. And his nostrils, can you see this? Is it clear? Picture even with all the light here? Maybe we could turn off the chandelier light, that would help. Is that? Oh, get it? It's got to be one of them. Does that help? Okay, great. So this means because Krishna's breathing, I'm breathing. Just like our body's made up of living cells, and each of the cells in our body is breathing. You know that, right? Each of our skin cells, our lung cells, our heart cells, our brain cells, they're each breathing. But they can only breathe because I'm breathing. Because I breathe, therefore that little cell in my lung can breathe. In the same way, because Krishna is breathing, Prabhupada says we're each a cell in the universal body, I can breathe. And material fragrance is his sense of smell. His breathing produces all kinds of fragrance. So my breath has some smell, but probably it isn't a very nice one, right? And people put mints and stuff in their mouth to cover up their smell. But Krishna's breathing is producing all these wonderful fragrances. Prabhupada says that even if you don't read the Shastra, and even if you don't have a guru, you can find God in the fragrance of a flower. And the breath, the air everywhere. So we have, of course, in English, two words, breath and air. Right? When we give up our body, our life breath merges into the air. And we think of air as just some inert gases. But it's not. It's Krishna's breathing. When we are breathing, we are breathing in the prana, or the breath of the Lord. And his eyes create form. So, do any of you know Nadia Mani, Amala Harinam's wife? So she did the illustrations for our book, and some of these I really like. Here we go. I really like the picture that she did for this. Like Krishna's eyes are generating form. You know, my eyes take in form, but they can't create form. I can't look at the table and go, cheesecake, cheesecake. You know? But everything that we're seeing, all the forms, are coming from the Lord's eyes. And his eyeballs are the sun and the heavenly planets, right? When we have a relationship with someone, we make eye contact. So when I see the sun, when I see Venus, Mars, Jupiter in the sky, I'm actually making eye contact with Krishna. And space is his eye pits. So my eye sockets are kind of morbid, and but Krishna's eye pits, they're full of wonder, of space. And his eyeball is the power of seeing. This is something Prabhupada talked about a lot, that I can only see when Krishna sees. First, he has to see as the sun, and then I can see. Without the sun, I can't see anything. Even all of our artificial light ultimately comes from the sun. And his eyelids are day and night. So when it's daytime, his eyes are open, and when it's nighttime, his eyes are closed. So when I'm waking up in the morning, Krishna is opening his eyes. When I go to sleep, he's closing his eyes. So this is one of my favorites. This I think about pretty much every day. So when it's sunrise and sunset, that's the moving of Krishna's clothes through the sky. So what color is Krishna's clothes? Yellow. It's kind of a saffron-y color. You know, it's not yellow like Tulsi's skirt like that. It's more this kind of, it's more like your shawl, or more like your sari there. And a kind of a reddish, saffron-y color. And of course, Krishna's form is dark blue. And so when the sun is rising and the sun is setting, this is Krishna moving through the sky, and you see his dark blue form with his saffron-y, yellow, reddish garments. And on his neck is all of the sound vibrations. Sometimes you see birds, when they're making sound, their neck moves. You've seen this? And his ears are hearing everything, and they particularly hear the Vedas. So we all experience that. Even if we're in a very noisy place, we can especially hear if someone says our name. You've all had that experience, right? There's just sort of this amorphous sound, and someone says your name. So Krishna is hearing everything, but especially he hears his name. And this one I really, really like. In the Bhagavad Gita section, Krishna says, I'm the sound in ether. So all sounds are Krishna, and they're coming from his ears. So for me, sound has to go into my ears, but for Krishna, all the sounds are coming out of his ears. You've got the AC, some shuffling, some coughing. All those sounds are coming out of his ears. Something you can think about anytime, you're on the highway, you hear the cars, you hear a dog barking, you hear a rooster crowing, whatever, somebody singing, somebody talking, somebody yelling. All these sounds are coming out of the Lord's ears. And his activities is yajna. Actually, it's called havyam karma bihi, to take what we do in life and offer it to Krishna. When I take whatever I'm doing, whether I'm working on math in school, or whether I'm driving to the store, or whether I'm washing the dishes, or whether I'm working at the bank, whatever I'm doing, if I meditate on this is Krishna walking through my life. Krishna is taking his steps through my life so that I can connect everything with him. In his touch were lusty desires. So this is a true story. There was a meeting of Catholic religious, and there was one monk that was walking out of a room and one nun that was walking into a room, and they didn't even touch, just their clothing touched, and a month later they got married. This is something I think about whenever I avoid touching people. If I'm in some situation, I'm going to touch this person. This is something that I meditate on quite a lot, and that the hairs of his body are the cause of all vegetation. That any kind of vegetation we see is one of his hairs. I mean, meditate on one of my eyebrow hairs or eyelashes or whatever is not very interesting. But each of these plants that we're seeing is one of the Lord's bodily hairs. And if you just think about that, how beautiful each of his hairs are. You can look at a rose plant, you can look at a tree, and just, wow, this is like one of the hairs on my Lord's body. And each of the trees are his hairs. So this is something I like to meditate on when I'm taking a walk. Just like sometimes we have a little insect walking on our arm. You ever feel a little bug walking on your arm? So all of these trees, they're the hairs on Krishna's body. And when we're walking among the trees, we're just like a little bug walking on his arm. It's such a sweet thing that I can feel so close to Krishna just walking among the trees. Then the clouds are the hair on his head. So Krishna's hair is what color? What color is Krishna's hair? Blackish. And of course, sometimes clouds are blackish if they're full of rain, but I can see out the window, there's some clouds are like gray and white. When does Krishna's hair look white? When does Krishna's hair look white? In the moonlight, probably, yeah. When else? Yes. Yes, in the afternoon when Krishna's coming home from the forest with the cows, the dust from the cows gets in his hair. So when you see the white clouds, oh, Krishna's coming back with the cows. When else does his hair look white? Battlefield of Kurukshetra, yes. Bhishma is saying that when you came at me with the chariot wheel as a weapon, the dust from the battlefield went in Krishna's hair and made it look white. So when we see the white clouds, oh, that's Krishna on the battlefield, or Krishna taking care of his cows. And his hairs are the drugs and the herbs. So even modern pharmaceuticals, either they're directly derived from the plants or they're synthesized chemicals from the plants. And that feeling we have when we're sick and we take some medicine and we feel better, isn't it? Right? Like I've had a little bit of a runny nose and then I'm making some tea out of peppermint and stuff, and you take it and then you feel so much better. And that's because it's Krishna's hairs. And where else did the herbs come from? Do you remember? Krishna's what? Nose, yes, his breathing. So he's breathing his potency from his nostrils onto his hairs. And that's all the different medicines, right? When you look in your medicine cabinet, that's actually Krishna's breathing onto the hairs of his body. And from his nails come electricity. So when you turn on your phone, you turn on the light switch, and you get that electricity, that's Krishna touching with his nails. Oh, look what else is on Krishna's nails. The horse and the mule and the camel and the elephant. So these used to be the working animals in human society. You know, you don't find this so much anymore. Now we mostly use machines. But just like our nails are tools, so on Krishna's nails are all the animals that are the working animals. And then all the stones are on his nails. So, of course, we know that people paint their nails. They paint them red and green and blue. And sometimes they even glue little stones on. You've seen that? Yeah? So this is something I remember. Anytime that I see anybody with painted nails, I think, Krishna's actually got rubies on his nails. He's actually got emeralds on his nails. Mm-hmm. If we have any jewelry or stones that we're wearing, so that's on Krishna's nails. And then the wild animals are on his belt. So a belt holds up our clothes. It's a functional garment. And in the same way, the wild animals maintain the whole ecosystem. Many of you seen that video about the reintroduction of wolves to Yellowstone National Park? Any of you seen that? A 14, 15-minute video. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. So, you know, they had killed all of the wolves in Yellowstone. And at one point they decided they were going to Yellowstone's a big park, by the way, if any of you have ever been there. It's a huge park. I don't know how many acres, but it's very large. They decided they were going to reintroduce one wolf pack. From that one wolf pack, the whole ecosystem changed. Prairies turned into forests. All different sorts of animals came back into the park, and even the flowing of the rivers changed. So this is on the Lord's belt zone to hold the whole system together. His lotus feet give protection from all kinds of fear. So many years ago, one of my god sisters asked me if I'd like to take a hike up a mountain to see a waterfall. And I said, sure. The whole way up, it was all muddy. And I couldn't actually look at any of the scenery. I was looking at my feet the whole time, just to make sure that I didn't slip. You know what it's like when you're walking on uneven or slippery ground and you're really giving your attention to your feet? Because our feet give us stability and protection from fear. And whenever we notice that, we can remember that also Krishna's lotus feet are our protection. The rain is actually coming from the Lord's semen. Generally in this world, the male of a species can generate only an offspring of its own species. But Krishna says, Aham bija pradapita, I am the father of everyone. And from the rains come directly or indirectly all the different species of life. Actually, all the waters come from his semen, which according to Ayurveda is the most concentrated form of the body's energy. So all the waters of this earth, they're the essence of life in our bodies, in our food, everything. We're alive and nourished and cleansed and functional because of water, which is full of the Lord's potency and vitality. Now here's how we can remember Krishna when we're on the toilet. So in his universal body, he also has an evacuating organ, which gets rid of envy and misfortune and death. Just like our body has to evacuate toxins in order to keep us healthy. And who is there? Oh, it's Mitra. So what does Mitra mean? Friend. So when our digestion works properly, it is certainly our friend. and his jaws of teeth are Yama. So Arjuna saw this at the Battle of Kurukshetra. The army is getting smashed. When the thieves and the murderers and the rapists and the arsonists and the cheaters get punished, that's Krishna going crunch, 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 crunch. And also affection is his set of teeth. When we feel Krishna's love and affection upon us, he's smiling at us with his beautiful teeth. One time when Prabhupada was on an airplane, a pilot came and asked him, if God is all good, why is there evil? Prabhupada said, evil is on God's backside. So there's a place even for immorality and ignorance. That is on Krishna's back. So they're part of his body, the evildoers, but they can't interact with him properly. They can't see him properly. From his veins form the great rivers and rivulets. So we have a little rivulet here on the property, right? A little stream. And then when you go down the hill, I don't know how you guys leave, but if you take a left and you go down the hill, it's a little bit bigger. So these are all the Lord's veins. What are veins? They're channels of life-giving liquid that deliver nutrition and remove wastes. So the rivers, the rivulets of the world, they define the borders of countries. They allow for human habitation. They affect the migration of animal herds. They allow us to transport goods from surplus to need. They are the veins of the Lord, the messengers of his heartbeat. On his bones are the mountains. So we don't have any really big mountains here, just some hills. Of course, we do have some mountains in North Carolina. At least when we can look at the hills, maybe they're like the little bones. And the mountains are the big bones, providing structure and form to the world. Then his arms. His arms are those who protect the general mass of people. His arms are the demigods headed by Indra and the Kshatriyas, the police officers, firefighters, those who are the lawyers, the judges, the legislators, the social workers, all of those who are protecting the living entities. The Kshatriyas are compared to like the big mothers and fathers of society. And they particularly represent and are situated on the Lord's arms. And one of Krishna's 64 qualities is shyness. That is why when the atheists look at the world, they can say, oh, there's no God. One of my friends just contacted me today. She had found a website with a bunch of devotional art on it, but she couldn't figure out who the artist was. She said, can you help me find out who the artist is? It took quite a while to navigate through the website. It wasn't immediately obvious. Like finally to find about us, to find who was, it took me about 10 minutes to find it. So it's like that. You look at the world, it's like an artist who didn't sign their painting, right? Because Krishna's shy. And this modesty in his upper lip, kind of like this, you know. And then hankering is his chin. Sometimes you see this with little children when they want something. I want that cookie. So how can Krishna hanker for anything? He's already full. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnat Ujjacate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. He's complete. You take the complete away from him, he's still complete. How can he be hankering for anything? But he is. What is he hankering for? Butter again. Definitely he's hankering for butter. What else is he hankering for? For love and devotion. He wants us to be genuinely happy. And Krishna's heart is dharma, religion. When we are following our dharma, when we are doing what's authentic, what's righteous, what's good, we are right next to Krishna's heart. And on his chest is truth spoken pleasingly. So it's easy to speak truth harshly. Yes, that's very easy. When we speak truth pleasingly, we are being held to the Lord's chest. And there is also Lakshmi Devi. So when we are following Dharma, when we are speaking truth in a pleasing way, then we are right next to Lakshmi Devi. Right? People are often trying to get Lakshmi without Narayan. That is the Ravana principle. Let me steal Lakshmi Devi. Lakshmi is fortune, opulence, wealth. Let me steal Lakshmi Devi away from Narayana and try to enjoy her myself. But of course that doesn't work, does it? In fact, Ravana was doing pretty well materially until he tried to do that, wasn't he? Yeah, that was what ruined him. But when we are following Dharma and we speak pleasing truth, we are naturally right there with Srimati Lakshmi Devi. Now, also on his chest are all of the stars, so I can't really see the deities from here. And I don't remember. Is Golokananda wearing any glittering necklace today? Anything that's like reflective or glittering? The earrings are glittering, but no necklaces? Just stones, So sometimes you see at Krishna's necklaces, they're glittering. They look like stars. And it's described that Krishna puts necklaces on his beloveds that look like stars. And when we see the stars in the sky, that's actually Krishna's necklaces and jewelry glittering like that. Then the ocean is his waist. So about a week ago, our family made a trip to the ocean. My great-grandson saw the ocean for the first time. And all of the crashing waves. That's Krishna's waist. So just like our waist, it joins together the top and bottom half of our body. So the ocean is joining together different pieces of land. And you know, Krishna's always dancing. So therefore you see this movement of the waves and the ripples and the eddies in the ocean. And on his waist he has these 3 lines. The movements of the water in the ocean. And the passing ages are his movements. So as we move in our life from being young to being a youthful, to middle age, to old age, and so forth, this is actually Krishna moving through our life. Now this is a very commonly understood one. I think I can say that in any religious or spiritual tradition, people understand that it must be the intelligence of some superior being behind everything in the world. They call it intelligent design, right? That you can see the trees, the insects, the seasons, the orbits of the planets, and behind all of it you can see there must be a grand intelligence. And every time we see this evidence of the intelligence of the Lord, that's how you tell, even with his shyness that he didn't sign the painting, that's how you know he was there. Just like, some very simple thing, right? Just like this cushion is very simple, right? But still it required some intelligence. This couldn't have been made by a chimpanzee, right? Or even a 2-year-old child. I mean, it requires some, and if you think about all the steps that are involved here, growing whatever was used for the fiber, feels like cotton, so growing the cotton and then picking it and carding it and spinning it and weaving it and dyeing it and embroidering it and then making the pattern and the design. A tremendous amount of intelligence had to go into a very simple thing, or even simpler, the curtains here. These curtains are even simpler than this cushion. But even then, there had to be intelligence behind it. You know, we might just look at it casually, there's a curtain on a curtain rod. But it requires some skill, some intelligence. And this is nothing compared to one plant or one cell. Nothing. Insignificant. So how intelligent must be, it's beyond anything that we can conceive of. There's no scientists that have perfectly understood even one cell, nor can they recreate one. I remember my god sister Vishaka, she used to write a cooking column for Back to Godhead, and in one of them she said, no scientist has ever created a grain of rice. And I thought, yeah, because it's a seed. Impossible. How much intelligence must there be in Krishna? And in his intelligence are Lord Brahma and the saintly persons. When we hear from the saintly persons, we're in touch with the intelligence of the Lord. His mind is the moon that's always changing. Our minds are very changeable. And we may think that Krishna's mind, like the moon, is changeable. We might think, oh, today he loves me, today he doesn't love me. But actually, the moon is only appearing to change. It's actually constant. And in the same way, Krishna's affection for us, his care for us, his determination to bring us back to him is constant. Rudra Dev is his ego. Rudra means anger. So we may like to say, oh, I don't have much of an ego, I'm pretty humble. But all it takes is somebody pushing us a little bit. I mean, we might like to say we get angry on principle. I'm sure sometimes we get angry on principle. But generally when we become angry, it's because somebody's poked at our ego. Somebody suggested that we're not as great as we would like to present that we are. That we've made some mistake or something, So we might wonder, well, how is it that Krishna has this ego of Rudra? So Krishna must have everything. He must have an ego also. But this Rudra, this anger of the Lord's ego, is not like our materialistic anger. Even materially, we may sometimes get angry out of love. If your little child picks up something dangerous, you're like, hey, put that down. That's loving anger. And Krishna's anger of Rudra is like that. Oh, this is one I really like to meditate on. And I really like Nadia's picture here. And this is her picture for this one. So it's hard to go a day without seeing or hearing birds. It's difficult. I suppose you could do it, but it would be pretty hard. So birds show that Krishna is an artist. In what way do the birds show us that Krishna is an artist? Their beauty, okay? Their singing, even the ones that go, caw, caw. I like to think of them as the drums. Okay, so their beautiful forms, their singing, what else? They're dancing. A lot of birds have very complicated dances, especially courtship dances. What else? Yeah, the way that they fly in different formations is actually like a whole dance, isn't it? And they're different flying. What's the starlings that do the murmuring? Right, where there's whole groups of them that fly together. If you're not familiar, go look it up on YouTube. Starlings murmuring, and it's really far out. But even the ones that can't fly, like the penguins, it's pretty artistic. And then some of them are really expert at nest building. As good as an architect. Sorry, any of you architects in the audience? So in all these ways, their colors, their form, their flying, their dancing, their nest building, their singing, they all show us, Krishna is an artist. Humanity is his residence. So this is something Srila Prabhupada talks about a lot, how that the animals don't have any form of religion. But in every human society, there's some kind of religion. And whether you have a church or a mosque or a temple or a synagogue, what do we call that? A house of God. And the whole idea of tilak is to say, my body is a house of God. And the angels are his musical rhythm. So in all cultures, angels are shown as musicians. Oh, even the demon soldiers show his prowess. So demons try to win the war with just what? Anger and strength, right? They don't work for morality. We'll talk about that with the Bhagavad Gita section, winning with morality. So they're trying to win with just strength. And they think, well, we don't like God, or there's no God, and we're just going to use our strength. But they don't know that their strength is also Krishna's strength. Okay? What was that conversation between Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad? Yeah. Where do you get your superhuman powers from, Prahlad? And what did Prahlad say? From the same place you do, Father, from God. His thighs are the Vaishyas, so our thighs, this is the femur bone. It's the strongest bone in our body. Gives support to the whole body. In the same way, those who provide all of our food, all the raw materials for food, for construction, for fiber, for medicine, it's those in this Varna who are providing all of the wealth for society as the thighs. And this is so sweet. The Shudras are under the protection of his feet, because those who work in this domain, who provide all the support for society, all the functionality of society, all of the beauty of society, the musicians, the artists, the dancers, the actors, the engineers, the architects, the carpenters, the plumbers, the secretaries. The mood of this Varna is service. The essential mood of this Varna is service, which is not so much there in the other Varnas. And because of this mood, which is very close to the mood of bhakti, those who work here have particular protection under the Lord's lotus feet. In his navel is the sky. And so Lord Shiva says that in the Lord's navel, we know the whole universe comes from his navel. And his navel looks like it's coiled. He said it looks like the whole universe came out and it's wanting to go back in. And so when we see the great sky, and we are looking within the navel of the Lord. And the upper planets are his chest. And on his eyebrows are the regulative principles, what we should do, what we should not do. So when we're doing something good, Krishna's doing this. And when we're doing something we shouldn't be doing, he's doing this. And anger is on his forehead. So many times when we get angry, our forehead kind of crinkles up. So I think that, if I get angry, I'm like stuck in one of those wrinkles in the Lord's forehead. So I'm next to him, but I can't really interact with him very well. And death is in his shadow. How does Krishna have a shadow? He's all effulgent. But when I turn from him, I'm in shadow. And then I experience death. And in his smile is the illusory energy. So both material illusion and spiritual yogamaya illusion are his smile, and all living entities are within his body. All right, so I'd like to ask which one of these specifically, if we could get some volunteers, which one of these specifically are you going to choose to meditate on this week? Yes?
Breathing.
Breathing, which one with the breathing?
The one where we are only breathing because of Krishna's breath.
That we are breathing because Krishna's breathing.
And all the cells within are only breathing because we're breathing.
Like the cells are breathing because I'm repeating it for the internet people. Okay, thank you. Yes? His breathing on his hairs is forming all the medicines. Excellent. Yes? Dharma is next to Dharma is his heart. Oh, to do everything right, to be close to his heart. That's beautiful. Somebody else? Yes. The sound vibrations from his neck. Very nice. The trees as his hairs. Yes. The scriptures is the voice of the Lord. Very nice. Yes. Lotus feet which protect us from fear. Yes. Yes. Oh, but that wasn't here. But it's very nice. That Maha Mantra is his skin. Or his voice. You can choose. When you come on April 21st, we'll do more. Then we'll do more from the Gita. Yeah. And in the book, we also have even more. Much more than what I do here. We have all of the 64 qualities and all kinds of cool things. Yes. The stars in the sky are Krishna's glittering necklace. Very nice. Somebody else. Yes. The cause of creation is his intelligence. Yes. Sun and the moon are his eyes. Yes, very nice. The gray and the dark and the white clouds are his hair. And sometimes they're dusty because he's taking care of the cows, right? Yes. The herbs are from his smelling. Yes. Yes. The sunrise and sunset are his changing of clothes and his moving of clothes through the sky. That's one of my favorites. Yes. Modesty is the upper portion. He's going like this. And his shyness. The birds are Krishna's artistry, yes. The sky is his navel. Good. Someone who hasn't said something yet. What are you going to pick? Yes. The wild animals are on his belt. Yes. The oceans are his waist as he's dancing. Yes. There's rivers and the streams even are his veins. Yes. His eye pits, his eye sockets are outer space. Very nice. Somebody else. Yes, his feet protect us from all kinds of fear, which is a nice thing when we are walking and we're noticing how our feet are what's giving us stability. Anybody else? His tongue is the source of all rasa, all taste, all pleasure. Very nice. Yes. His hankering is his chin. Okay, well, I want to thank you very, very much. And as I say, on April 21st, Krishna willing, we'll be doing the Bhagavad Gita portion. And Mother Kamalini is supposed to come in here. If you would like to get a book from her, I think they're 25 on Amazon. They're like 35, and I'm happy to sign one for you. So these are just little quick meditations. You can just open anywhere. It's not a read cover to cover kind of book. You can just open anywhere, and you just read for 2 minutes. And you take that one and say, okay, this is what I'm going to meditate on. And a lot of our devotee schools have been using this for discussion with the kids and having the kids do drawings and meditations like that. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Oh, you want questions too? Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Yes. Well, you see that people are trying to hurt Krishna in that. That's what you see. See that when people are doing all these terrible things to the universe, you can see that what they're trying to do is exploit and hurt Krishna. Just like how would you feel if, somebody came and threatened your family member or with an axe or going to cut off your kid's arm. And it's just, we should see what's being done. I mean, there's a very nice old book published by the BBT called Divine Nature. How understanding that everything is the body of the Lord allows us to have a real basis for spiritual environmentalism. Any other question? Yes. Hare Krishna.
For someone who is in a kindergarten or bhakti school, this felt like a PhD.
It's so funny you said that, because as I've been teaching this all over the world, I get these 180 degree. One, people say, this is too elementary. We're supposed to be meditating on Krishna's Rasa Leela with the gopis. Why are you talking about the stars and the sun? And then I have, this is way too advanced.
My question is that from the neophyte stage where I am in, this is very encouraging. But how to bridge that gap where I can
Pick one. Pick one. Say, okay, and the next day, I'm going to meditate on how the clouds are Krishna's hair. And then actually try to meditate on that. What Kamala Sita and I did is we would spend some time with each of these. And we had this with the idea that the people who read this would do the same on their own. Right? Let's take this one. His nails are the breeding ground of electricity. Electricity is directly related to magnets, which are in turn related to iron. If we think of the nails in this verse as being on Krishna's toes, we can think of how when the Lord walks, his toenails spark electricity, like matches striking a matchbox. Similarly, the touch of the Lord's fingernails spark ecstasy and spiritual realization in his devotees. That the Lord's nails are electric and magnetic is indicative of how attractive he is. His devotee Prahlad described himself as iron and the Lord as a magnet attracting him. Indeed, the very name Krishna means all attractive. When we use magnets or turn on electrical appliances and objects, we are in touch with Krishna's beautiful nails. Those nails are so brilliant that they shine with a beckoning luster, drawing even those who are already impersonally realized to personal devotional service. Those nails are illuminating, energizing, and attracting. They are electric and magnetic. So you just take one of these and say, let me take 2 minutes to think about it. It's turning your attention this much. I give this analogy all the time. If you have two parallel lines and you move one this much, just 1 millimeter, it's in a whole different, it doesn't take much. It's just a little bit. Let me think about feet as protection from fear. Let me think about the clouds as his hair. Let me think about the sunset. Today I'm just going to do that. And so for 2 minutes today I'm going to do that. And then you go, whoa, that was really nice. And the next day you try again, maybe with the same one or maybe pick a different one. And some days you forget. You go, oops, forgot that day. And then you try again the next day. And after a while you're finding that more and more and more and more, it's just coming more and more automatically. Until you get to the point that everywhere, in everything, you're seeing, oh, Krishna's there and Krishna's there and Krishna's there and Krishna's there and Krishna's there. So it's a question of practice. That's what we call sadhana bhakti or abhyas yoga, that one has to make some effort. You don't have to make much effort. Sometimes people think you have to make a humongous effort. By Srila Prabhupada's grace, you don't have to make a humongous effort. It's Kali Yuga. You've got Lord Chaitanya, you've got Lord Nityananda, you've got Srila Prabhupada. You don't have to make a big effort. And Prabhupada says you take 1 step towards Krishna, he takes 10 steps towards you. So just a little movement that way, and you'll just, it's Krishna's eye. Because Krishna has his eye open, I can see. And you get that connection to practice. Does anyone else have another question? We'll take one more, and then we need to end. Yes.
Hugely positive because from such a young age, and like 3, 4, we learn manners as far as talk about that.
Right.
So just speaking very frankly, reading now about appreciating that everything's a fun. I'm going to read that. Am I actually going to meditate on that? No, I'm not going to meditate. But I can appreciate. I mean, just talk about where I'm at. There's processing of conditioning and able to get out of that process. But the point that was in the book about appreciating morbid smells, there's always something we can appreciate about it. This person's going, hey, this is really filthy or foul.
Stay away from it.
That to me, but I'm loving you to let you know that's safe.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Kamalini's here, so she can help you with this if you want. Thank you very much. Whatever good was in this presentation is from Srila Prabhupada. Whatever bad was here is from me. I hope you can take the good and put aside the bad. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila.